Welcome back, everybody. Excited about this week. We're going to have a two-part series on It's Time for Some Action. I love listening to inspirational speeches. I love great speakers that you listen to them and within a minute or two, you are absolutely energized and ready to go and take some action. How often do you get inspired by people? That's a real question. How often do you look at an Instagram reel or something on Facebook, a clip in social media that really inspires you? You're ready to go. You feel like an energizer bunny to get going. And today's conversation is about taking some action. So now that you do feel inspired, you do feel motivated, you're ready to go, how do you actually get about and go about taking some real action? We're going to cover a few of the how to start taking action in today's podcast. It's going to be a two-part series. And today we're going to cover finding out your why. Then the second portion is identifying the 1 to 3 things that you're going to go and do differently. The third one is don't start what you cannot finish. Then fourthly, enjoying the process of learning and growing and failing. And then lastly for today is don't let the fear of failure hold you back. All right, let's jump into this one. Let's dig in. We are miners. All right. As I've mentioned, I love listening to inspirational people that are really good at conveying an energized message and calling you to action. But it's somewhat of a more difficult challenge when you are motivated and inspired, but actually then thinking about it a lot, but not really doing it. And it's more difficult to actually get going on doing that one thing. So the first one in the 5 things that we're going to talk about today is finding your why. So if you do listen to an inspirational conversation, or you sit and you are in a lecture hall, or you are listening or busy educating yourself, reading a book, and during this process you feel called to action, there's a few things to consider when you do feel that now is the time for action. And the finding your why is quite important in that you want to know why is it that you do want to take some action. Now, when we are inspired, it is an emotional experience, and there's nothing wrong with having a call in and a movement in your heart and in your skin, and you are energized by your emotions. But it is quite important to evaluate the facts. So looking a little bit about the history of that specific thing. Let's say, as an example, you feel you need, we've spoken about finances the last couple of weeks, and you feel this is the time for you to take some serious action about your debt situation. Look at the facts. So take stock of why is it important for you to reduce your debt. What does it make you feel like? Is it, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough? So consider your emotional state and try and balance your emotions with facts that you really this action that you want to take, you really want to take the action for the right reason, or reasons, more than one. And there are some pros and cons. There's going to be some downside to you taking action. But what if you not take action? What's the result if you just do nothing? What's the do nothing case in your life? You feel you have to take some action. You find your why. But it's important in finding your why is that what will happen if I don't take action? Okay, are we ready to move on? It's going to be a short podcast today, but a powerful one. And you're going to enjoy this and you're going to take some action. I'm sure you will be after today. All right. Second one. Identify the one to three things that you're going to do differently. I think it was Einstein that said the first sign of madness is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So it's very difficult if there are 10 things that you need to do differently. Remember, maybe you've got some really bad habits and you just want to break one. You just want to do one thing differently. You want to engage with your team differently. You've listened to an inspirational leadership talk and you want to approach your engagement with your team on a weekly basis different. Just take 1 to maximum 3 things and do it differently and make sure that you're consistent about that. We can, there's various examples of taking some action and, it may be that you just want to go off social media, but you don't want to use Facebook for a week, for a month. You want to wake up 30 minutes earlier and just have consistent quiet time and reflection time and give yourself some breathing space. You maybe want to do visible felt leadership with your teams and you want to go out and meet with your people and be on the shop floor, underground, in the workshops, in the plant, in the smelter. You just want to do that more often, but keep it very simple to 1 or 3, maximum 3 things that you're going to do totally differently because you are being called to action. And I'm not talking about small action steps. I'm talking about life-changing moments. So real important life-changing moments where you want to take some real action that will redefine your life and who you are as a leader, as a professional, as a supervisor of a team, as a mother, as a father, as a friend, as a business colleague, as a peer to somebody in your business. These are going to be life-changing actions, and you want to keep it simple. You don't want it too complicated. You don't want it to be more than, say, 3 things at a time, because focus, absolute focus, brings results. If you are all over the place with various things that you're going to try, you won't have the focus. You won't have the same result. Does it make sense? Does it work for you, or do you want a lot of things? I like simple. I like keep it simple. The third one we're going to talk about is don't start what you cannot finish. And one of the more difficult things for me, I'm a great starter. I struggle at times to finish certain things. But if you've committed to a change, a big thing that you're going to change, Stephen Covey, that's written, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of those habits is start with the end in mind. And if you start with the end in mind, you know where you're going with this. You actually have a timeline that you've dedicated yourself to actually seeing this through. And that timeline may be for the rest of your life. You say, I am going to have a more healthy lifestyle. I'm going to eat more. I'm going to eat better for the rest of my life. It's just not just a small, fixer-upper type diet that I'm going to go on. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Or I'm just going to break my bad habit of drinking too much caffeine or taking in too much caffeine by having coffee. I love coffee. Every now and then I must take a coffee fast and remind myself that I'm still in control and that coffee doesn't control me. But if it's a 42-day thing that you want to do, or 21-day, just, focus, get some different things happening. But start with the end in mind. Have a timeline for yourself to say, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how long I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to learn a new habit, and because I need to learn a new habit, there's science, somewhere between 42 and 74 days, your brain gets rewired, your thinking patterns get rewired, and you can actually change those habits and those thinking patterns. But don't start what you cannot finish. So if I always say to, another example I love using at times is, if you want to run faster, or you want to, as an athlete, as a simple example, let's say you're a sprinter, and you give yourself extremely ambitious goals that I'm going to run the 100 meters in under 12 seconds in the next 6 months. But you're currently at 18 seconds for the 100 meters. Maybe that's a little bit unrealistic to think that in 6 months or you're going to get the 100 meters done under 12 seconds. That may be a 2-year program with some dedicated coaching and focus and training and diet and all of that. So don't start what you cannot finish, but be realistic about what you want to achieve, so that you can celebrate the successes along the way. And that's very important to do that. Then the next point is a point that I've really gotten to love and appreciate and embrace in my own life. It's one that says, enjoy the process of learning and failing. So you've decided to make a big change, and you are now doing those things differently, those 1 to 3 things differently. But there will be times that you may be failing. There will be times that you're not going to get it right. There may be, maybe you're doing a cold plunge every morning and you've decided, I'm going to do this every morning, but maybe you do it 6 out of the 7 days. It's okay to fail. It's okay not to be beating yourself up about 1 or 2 failures. But also in failures, we learn. And in making mistakes, we learn. And it's important to embrace your failures. It's important to take those failures and say, what have I learned from this, and how do I do it differently going forward? Enjoying the process of changing habits or action, taking serious actions about what you're doing and what you want to change. There will be failures. You will learn stuff. This podcast for me was a huge learning for over the last year, and I knew that I didn't give an exact timeline, but I said I need to be consistent for 2 to 3 years. And I can tell you that it's not easy, but I've had some failures. I had a stock of about 12 podcasts recorded before we went live. And I knew that there was going to be weeks that I don't have a guest, that diaries just don't line up, and that therefore I would need and use up my inventory. And I underestimated that 12 wasn't enough, and that that people that want to be on the show that have already said yes, they really have busy diaries, and at the same time I have a very busy diary. So life happens. So there's 1 day, maximum a day and a half, that I've got open for doing a recording and having a guest on the show. And I underestimated, but how difficult it's going to be consistent about this podcast. And the person that's helping with this, and she's brilliant. She said, Christo, even if you don't have somebody, just keep going. Your audience want to listen to the podcast. They come back every week, and they sit at the table and they eat, and they enjoy what you are sharing. But it's been difficult. But I've learned the process. I have learned so much about myself. I've learned about other people, and I've enjoyed the process. It's made me a better communicator, which was a big struggle of mine in the beginning of my career. I struggled to communicate with people. I struggled to use my voice. I had a very boring voice, but enjoy the process. Then finally for today is, don't let the fear of failure hold you back or prevent you from starting. Many people, I would say the majority of people, never start because of a fear of failure, which links to the previous point of, enjoy the process, take the learnings, take the process of improving, enjoy the process as opposed to necessarily, being perfect at what you want to execute. You're going to fail, understand it. You're going to have times that it's not going to go perfect. But don't let the fear of failing prevent you from starting and taking action. Mentioned in the financial podcast that we've done recently of building personal wealth, that I love property. And an example of that was that very first property we bought for investment was a big decision, and a lot of things could have gone wrong, and we knew that it's going to be a tough decision. You're taking a huge leap of faith. But if we never made the decision to start, we wouldn't have been able to where we are today. We learned so much and grown so much in understanding property investment. And we have failed. We've lost some money and we've made mistakes, but we've learned, and we are much better off now than what we used to be. But don't let the fear of failure prevent you from starting. Okay. How is your action going to change lives? How is your action that you're going to take over the next week or for the rest of your life? How will that add value to people in your lives, in your career? Don't you want to make a serious commitment to yourself and start taking some serious action and not just talk about it? And don't let fear hold you back. That's it for today. So, to recap, find your why to take that action. Identify the one, maximum to 3 things that you will be doing differently to support that action. Don't start what you cannot finish. Enjoy the process of learning and failing. And finally, don't let the fear of failing prevent you from starting. If this means something to you, if this is adding value to you, why don't you add value to others by sharing it, talking about it, referring them to the podcast? But let's go and make the world a better place. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your mining. Cheers.